Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales and boundless imagination come to life. Enjoy the journey. Joel Grant's knuckles whitened on the controls as his ship plunged through Earth's outer defense grid. Red warning lights flashed across the cockpit console, screaming about the alien patrol vessels closing in from 3 different vectors. "Initiate emergency protocol Sigma-7, he commanded, his voice steady despite the sweat beading on his forehead. The ship's AI responded instantly, engaging a series of rapid maneuvers that would have crushed an unaugmented human. Through the view screen, Earth's false face shimmered like a mirage, a toxic wasteland of ruins and storms that concealed humanity's greatest achievement. The illusion wavered for a split second as his ship passed through, revealing glimpses of gleaming spires and floating gardens before the masking field sealed behind him. "Multiple ships detected on intercept course," the AI announced. 90 seconds to weapons range." Joel allowed himself a grim smile. They're about to learn why Earth's defense grid has a perfect record. He pressed his palm against the biometric scanner, authorizing the ship's final defensive measures. The pursuing vessels never stood a chance. As they crossed the outer marker, dormant defense platforms sprang to life, unleashing a carefully choreographed light show that mimicked the deadly storms Earth was supposedly plagued with. The alien ships scattered, their sensors overwhelmed by false readings of lethal radiation and atmospheric disturbances. Minutes later, Joel's ship touched down in a private hangar nestled within one of New Shanghai's towering arcologies. He stepped out into a world that would have seemed impossible to most galactic citizens, a perfect fusion of nature and technology. Transparent walkways wound between buildings draped in bioluminescent vines, while anti-gravity platforms carried citizens between different levels of the city. Engineered creatures that looked like a cross between birds and butterflies danced through the air, their wings shimmering with programs that helped regulate the city's climate. "Welcome home, Mr. Grant," an android attendant greeted him, its synthetic features perfectly mimicking human expression. "The Security Council requests your immediate presence." Joel suppressed a groan. He'd expected this, but had hoped for at least a few hours to decompress. "Tell them I'll be there in 30 minutes. I need to clean up first." They insisted on immediate attendance, sir. Their exact words were, "directly from the hangar." Of course they did. Joel straightened his flight suit and followed the android to a waiting transport pod. As they glided through the city, he watched citizens going about their daily lives in this hidden paradise. Young couples strolled through floating gardens, children played with holographic companions, and the elderly, who could easily live another century thanks to medical advances, gathered in meditation spaces that seemed to defy gravity. The transport pod came to a stop at the summit tower, headquarters of Earth's governing body. Joel was escorted to a circular chamber where 5 figures waited, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of displays. "Counselor Thompson," Joel nodded to the stern-faced woman who led the Security Council. "I assume you're interested in my findings." "We're interested in your increasingly reckless behavior, Mr. Grant," Thompson replied, her augmented eyes scanning him with obvious disapproval. "3 close encounters with alien patrols in as many months. You're drawing attention we can't afford." "With respect, Counselor, we can't maintain this isolation forever. The population continues to grow, and even with our technological advances, we've heard this argument before," another council member interrupted. "The decision to maintain our privacy was made centuries ago, after the galaxy rejected our attempts at peaceful contact." Joel stepped forward, pulling a data crystal from his suit. "Then you should be very interested in what I discovered. There's growing instability in the Centauri Alliance. Their leadership is fracturing, and several systems are considering secession. If Earth revealed itself now with our advanced technology—" "Enough!" Thompson's voice cracked like a whip. "You were authorized to observe, not to gather intelligence for some misguided attempt at changing policy. This obsession with the outside galaxy is becoming dangerous, Mr. Grant. Perhaps it's time to reassign you to internal security." Before Joel could protest, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A holographic display materialized, showing a small vessel breaching the outer defense grid. "Impossible," one of the council members breathed. "Nothing should be able to penetrate." "It's not penetrating," Joel interrupted, studying the readouts. "It's falling. Their engines are dead. They're being pulled in by Earth's gravity." Thompson's eyes narrowed. "Shoot it down." "Wait." Joel stepped closer to the display. "The ship's design, it's a prisoner transport, specifically an exile pod. They're not trying to invade, they've been sentenced to die on what they believe is a dead world." The council members exchanged glances. This wasn't the first time other civilizations had used Earth as a dumping ground for their unwanted. Usually, the defense grid's illusions drove them away, but a powerless ship. "I'll handle it," Joel offered quickly. "My department specializes in containment. No one else needs to know." Thompson studied him for a long moment. "Very well, but understand this, Mr. Grant. If word of this reaches the general population, the consequences will be severe." Joel was already moving. His private transport took him to the crash site, well outside the city limits in an area where the paradise of Earth gave way to carefully maintained wilderness. The exile pod had carved a deep groove into the earth before coming to rest in a small valley. As he approached, the pod's hatch burst open in a shower of sparks. 3 figures stumbled out, coughing in the evening air. Joel froze, transfixed by what he saw. They were humanoid, but their skin was a striking shade of green that seemed to shimmer in the fading sunlight. Each possessed an otherworldly beauty that transcended their alien nature. Their features were delicate yet strong, their bodies a perfect blend of grace and power. The tallest of the 3 spoke first, her voice carrying a musical quality despite her obvious distress. "So this is how it ends, banished to a dead world." "Better than execution," the youngest replied, her fierce eyes scanning their surroundings. "At least we die free." The third remained silent, her attention fixed on something in the distance. "Sisters," she whispered. "Either the toxins are already affecting our minds, or I'm seeing trees, living trees." Joel cleared his throat, deciding it was time to reveal himself. All 3 women spun toward him, dropping into defensive stances with impressive speed. The youngest produced a small blade from somewhere in her tattered clothing. "Peace," Joel said, raising his hands. "I'm not here to harm you." "A human?" The tallest one's eyes widened. "Impossible. This world is dead. Everyone knows that." Joel smiled. "Everyone knows wrong. I'm Joel Grant, and you are?" The women exchanged glances before the tall one stepped forward. "I am Estel, former princess of the Verdant Worlds. These are my sisters, Nessa," she gestured to the armed one, "and May." "Former princess?" Joel raised an eyebrow. "Former everything," Estel replied bitterly. "We've been sentenced to exile for political disagreements." May, the quiet one, suddenly swayed on her feet. Joel rushed forward to catch her before she fell, noting how her skin felt surprisingly warm beneath his touch. "You're all exhausted and probably half-starved. Let me help you." "Why would you help us?" Nessa demanded, though Joel noticed she hadn't released her grip on her weapon. "Because contrary to what the galaxy believes, humanity never died. We simply chose to hide." He gestured toward the horizon where the illusion briefly wavered, revealing the glittering spires of New Shanghai. "And I think you 3 might be exactly what this world needs right now." The sisters stared in amazement at the glimpse of the city. "But how?" May began. "I'll explain everything," Joel promised. "But first, let's get you somewhere safe. My estate is nearby, and I can keep your presence secret while you recover." "And why should we trust you?" Estelle asked, though Joel could see the curiosity burning in her eyes. "Because right now, I'm your only option, and because I think you'll find that Earth isn't what anyone thinks it is, including its own people." Joel led them to his personal transport, which he'd landed just over the ridge. As they approached, the sisters' amazement grew at the sight of technology that clearly surpassed anything in their experience. "This is advanced," May murmured, running her hand along the transport's seamless hull. "You haven't seen anything yet," Joel replied, helping them aboard. As they lifted off, he activated the transport's camouflage systems, making them invisible to the city's standard surveillance. His estate sat on the outskirts of New Shanghai, a sprawling complex of living architecture that adapted to its inhabitants' needs. Gardens floated at various levels, connected by bridges that appeared and disappeared as needed. The entire structure was alive in a way that made the sisters gasp. "Welcome to my home," Joel said as they landed on a private pad. "Computer, initiate privacy protocols. No visitors, no surveillance, no records." "Acknowledged," the AI responded. "Privacy mode engaged." Inside, the sisters finally allowed themselves to relax slightly as they took in their surroundings. Estelle ran her fingers along a wall that rippled at her touch, while Nessa stared in fascination at a group of small creatures that looked like miniature dragons flitting through the air. "How is this possible?" May asked, her scientific curiosity obviously overwhelming her caution. "The galaxy believes Earth destroyed itself centuries ago." Joel gestured them toward comfortable seating that formed itself from the floor. "That's exactly what we wanted them to believe. When humanity first achieved interstellar travel, we discovered a galaxy that had already been divided up among various powers. Our attempts at peaceful contact were rejected. Some even tried to enslave us. So you hid," Estelle concluded, "created this illusion of a dead world." "And in our isolation we advanced," Joel confirmed. "But now we're reaching a breaking point. Earth's population grows, and more people question whether we should remain hidden." "And where do we fit into this?" Nessa asked bluntly. Joel smiled. "That depends on you. But first, let's get you cleaned up and fed. There's medical facilities here that can treat any injuries, and the synthesizers can create any food you're familiar with." As the sisters were led away by service androids, Joel couldn't help but feel that something momentous had just begun. These three women, each extraordinary in her own way, might be exactly what Earth needed to break free from its self-imposed exile. But first, he had to keep them hidden from a security council that was already suspicious of his activities. And somehow, he had to figure out why his heart raced every time Estelle's eyes met his, or when Nessa's fierce grin flashed in his direction, or when May's quiet intelligence showed in her thoughtful glances. This was either going to be the best decision he'd ever made, or the one that finally got him in trouble he couldn't talk his way out of. Hours later, Joel found himself in his study with three transformed women. Clean, properly dressed in Earth fashion, and fed, they looked even more striking. Their green skin seemed to glow with renewed vitality, highlighting features that would turn heads in any species. "So," Estelle said, gracefully settling into a floating chair, "tell us more about this paradise you've built while hiding from the galaxy." She wore a flowing dress that adapted to her movements, the fabric shifting colors subtly with each gesture. "Paradise has its price," Joel replied, watching as Nessa prowled the room's perimeter. The youngest sister had chosen more practical attire, a fitted suit that emphasized her warrior's physique. "We can control the weather, cure almost any disease, extend life far beyond natural limits, but we're trapped here." May looked up from a data tablet she'd been absorbing with frightening speed. "Your technology. It's centuries ahead of anything I've studied. The quantum mechanics alone are probably why the Council's so paranoid about revealing ourselves, Joel interrupted gently. We've evolved far beyond what the galaxy would accept. Accept? Nessa scoffed. They'd try to steal it all within days of discovery. She paused at a window, watching as artificial auroras danced across the evening sky, part of the city's atmospheric maintenance system. Estelle's eyes narrowed. You're not supposed to be helping us, are you? No, Joel admitted. Standard protocol would be to either turn you away or eliminate the security risk. Yet, here we are, May observed quietly. Why? Joel stood, walking to a wall that transformed into a vast display of Earth's solar system. Because something has to change. We can't keep hiding forever, and I think you three might help prove that. How? Nessa demanded. You've seen what we're capable of, but more importantly, you've seen that we're still human, still capable of compassion, of taking risks for others. He turned to face them. The galaxy needs to know that. A soft chime interrupted them. Warning, the House AI announced. Security Council surveillance drones detected in the vicinity. Joel cursed under his breath. They're suspicious already. Computer, activate full countermeasures. Ladies, I apologize, but we need to move to the secure levels. The floor beneath them transformed, creating a spiral staircase that led downward. As they descended, the sisters watched in amazement as the house literally reformed itself around them, erasing any trace of their presence. Your entire civilization can do this? May asked, running her hand along a wall that sparkled with bioluminescent patterns. Most of it, Joel replied, though my home has some special modifications. Being in security has its perks. They emerged into a comfortable living space that seemed to exist somewhere between normal space-time. Through glass windows, they could see fish swimming through what appeared to be liquid light. We're in a pocket dimension, May breathed. You've mastered quantum bubble technology. Among other things, Joel smiled. We'll be safe here while the drones pass, though I suspect this won't be the last time the Council checks up on me. Estelle moved closer to him, her presence sending an unexpected shiver down his spine. You're risking a great deal for us. Worth it, he replied, meeting her gaze. Something electric passed between them before Nessa cleared her throat. As fascinating as all this is, the warrior sister said, what exactly is your plan? We can't hide in a quantum bubble forever. No, Joel agreed, but we can use this time. May, I've seen how quickly you absorb information. I want you to study everything you can about Earth's current situation. Nessa, you'll need combat training. Our fighting styles are probably very different from what you know. And Estelle. Yes? The former princess asked, one elegant eyebrow raised. You understand politics better than most. I need your insight into how the galaxy would really react if Earth revealed itself. The sisters exchanged looks, having one of those silent conversations that only siblings can manage. Finally, Estelle spoke for them all. We'll help you, Joel Grant. But understand this. We've already lost one home to political games and secrets. We won't be merely tools in your plan. Joel bowed slightly. I wouldn't dream of it. In fact, I'm counting on you being much more than that. The House AI interrupted again. Drones have passed. No detection registered. However, a Security Council meeting has been scheduled for tomorrow morning. Subject: recent activities of Joel Grant. Well, Joel sighed, this should be interesting. Ladies, make yourselves comfortable. Something tells me we're all in for quite an adventure. As the sisters settled into their new sanctuary, Joel watched them with growing fascination. Estelle's natural authority, Nessa's fierce protective instincts, May's brilliant curiosity, each of them represented something Earth's isolated society desperately needed. And if the way his pulse quickened when they were near was any indication, They might end up meaning something more to him personally as well. But that was a complication he'd have to deal with later. Right now, he had a security council to fool, a civilization to potentially transform, and three extraordinary women to protect. Just another day on the world everyone thought was dead. Joel stood before the Security Council, maintaining a carefully neutral expression as Thompson dissected his recent activities. Power fluctuations at your estate, she noted, scrolling through holographic data. Unusual resource consumption patterns. Care to explain? Testing new security protocols, Joel replied smoothly. Given our recent discussions about my adventures beyond the barrier, I thought it prudent to upgrade my systems. Thompson's augmented eyes flickered, a tell Joel had learned to recognize as suspicion. And these protocols require quantum bubble generation? The best security is layered, counselor. Joel allowed himself a small smile. Isn't that what you taught me? Back at his estate, three women waited in a pocket of twisted space-time. Joel couldn't help but think about them during the entire meeting, especially Estelle's knowing smirk when he'd left that morning, Nessa's lingering touch on his arm, and May's intense gaze as she devoured Earth's scientific databases. The past week had been complicated. Very well, Thompson finally conceded. But we'll be watching, Mr. Grant. Dismissed. Joel's transport took a deliberately meandering path home, ensuring no one followed. When he finally reached his hidden sanctuary, he found a scene that made him pause in the doorway. Nessa was sparring with one of his combat androids, her green skin glistening with exertion as she moved with lethal grace. She'd modified her fitted suit into something more appropriate for combat, leaving little to the imagination. The warrior caught his gaze and winked, deliberately performing a more elaborate move than necessary. Show off, Estelle commented from her position on a floating meditation platform. The former princess had adapted to Earth's luxury with suspicious ease, though Joel had caught her studying the house's security systems with far too much interest. May barely looked up from her array of floating screens, but Joel noticed her slight smile. Your combat android's learning algorithms are impressive, but Nessa's already identified 3 exploitable weaknesses. 4, Nessa corrected, dropping into a fighting stance. Want to see? Later, Joel said, though the invitation in her voice made his pulse quicken. We need to talk. The council's getting suspicious. That got their attention. May dismissed her screens. Nessa deactivated the android and Estelle's platform drifted lower. They gathered around a table that formed itself from the floor, something that still fascinated them despite a week of exposure to Earth's technology. How bad? Estelle asked, her royal training evident in her composed demeanor. Bad enough. They're monitoring power signatures, resource usage. Joel ran a hand through his hair. We need to be more careful. Or, Nessa suggested, leaning forward, we could be less careful. Let them find us. Show them what they're missing by hiding from the galaxy. That would be suicide, Estelle snapped, but Joel noticed how her eyes lingered on him. The council would eliminate any threat to their precious secrecy. Actually, May interrupted, her quiet voice drawing everyone's attention, I found something interesting in the archives, something that might change everything. She waved her hand and the table's surface came alive with ancient data streams. These genetic markers, they're consistent across all known sentient species, but they originate here, on Earth. What are you saying? Joel asked, though he suspected he knew. Humanity didn't just achieve technological superiority in isolation, May explained, her excitement breaking through her usual reserve. They're the source, the progenitors. Every spacefaring race in the galaxy is descended from human genetic engineering experiments from before the isolation. Silence fell as the implication sank in. Well, Nessa finally said, That certainly explains the attraction. Joel caught her meaning and felt heat rise in his face. The physical tension between him and the sisters had been growing daily, complicated by their distinct personalities and approaches. Nessa's bold flirtation, Estelle's subtle manipulation that was becoming less subtle, May's intellectual connection that somehow felt just as intimate. "Focus," Estelle commanded, though her voice held less authority than usual. This information could be valuable but also dangerous. If the council knew we had access to it, a chime interrupted her. "Warning," the House AI announced. "Unknown energy signature detected. Variant suggests cloaked approach." "Stay here," Joel ordered, moving toward the landing pad. The sisters exchanged glances but remained in the quantum bubble, watching through the dimensional viewport. The cloaked ship materialized on the pad, a sleek, military-grade vessel Joel immediately recognized. Before he could react, a massive figure burst from the ship's hatch, moving with impossible speed for someone that size. Joel barely had time to raise his defenses before his father's attack sent him skidding across the pad. He rolled with the impact, coming up in a fighting stance, but Marcus Grant was already there, throwing combinations that would have pulverized lesser men. Through the viewport, Nessa whistled appreciatively. "Now that's how you fight." Joel blocked a devastating right hook, countered with a sweep kick, but his father simply laughed and caught him with a throw that ended with Joel pinned to the deck. "Getting slow, son," Marcus grinned, his weathered face crinkling with amusement. "Too much time playing diplomat with the council?" He pulled Joel up and crushed him in a bear hug that would have broken ribs if not for their enhanced physiology. "Good to see you too, Dad," Joel wheezed. "What happened to calling ahead? Where's the fun in that?" Marcus released him, massive arms crossing over his chest. His combat suit, designed to accommodate his bodybuilder physique, hummed with barely contained power. "Now, want to tell me about your guests, or should I go find them myself?" Joel sighed. "How long have you known?" "Please. I taught you everything about quantum bubbles, including how to hide them." Marcus's eyes twinkled. "Also, you're terrible at lying to your old man. So, where are these green-skinned beauties I've heard whispers about?" Inside the bubble, Estelle raised an elegant eyebrow. "I like him already." "House, drop the field," Joel commanded. The dimensional barrier dissolved, revealing the three sisters to Marcus's appreciative gaze. "Well, well," he rumbled. "The rumors didn't do you ladies justice." He bowed with surprising grace. "Marcus Grant, former head of Earth Defense, current pain in the Council's collective ass, and this boy's father." "Former head of defense." May's eyes widened. "You designed the barrier system?" "Among other things." Marcus winked. "But right now I'm more interested in how my son managed to hide 3 gorgeous aliens for a week without starting an interstellar incident." "The week isn't over yet," Nessa quipped, clearly appreciating Marcus's direct approach. Joel watched nervously as his father circled the sisters, his enhanced senses no doubt picking up every detail. Finally, Marcus turned to him with a serious expression. "You know what you're risking here, son?" "Yes." "Good." Marcus's face split into a wide grin. "Then let's make it worth the risk. Ladies, how would you like to see what Earth's defenses really look like from the inside?" Estelle stepped forward, every inch the royal she was born to be. "Are you suggesting what I think you are, Mr. Grant?" "Marcus, please. And yes, I am. Joel's been trying to change things from within the system. Admirable, but slow. Sometimes you need to—" He cracked his knuckles meaningfully. "Accelerate the process." "Dad," Joel warned, "the Council—" "Can kiss my genetically enhanced behind," Marcus finished. "They've been living in fear too long. Maybe these lovely ladies are exactly what we need to shake things up." He turned to May. especially since you've already figured out the truth about our genetic legacy. May blinked. How did you? Because I helped bury those records myself, sweetheart. Now, who's hungry? I know a place in New Beijing where the quantum fields are thin enough to get real Sichuan food. As his father led the suddenly animated sisters toward his ship, Joel felt a headache building. He should have known his father would show up eventually. Marcus Grant had never been good at staying retired, especially when there was chaos to be caused. But watching how naturally he engaged with each sister, discussing combat techniques with Nessa, trading political observations with Estelle, and answering May's rapid-fire technical questions, Joel realized this might be exactly what they needed. "Coming, son?" Marcus called back. "Or are you going to stand there brooding all day?" "I don't brood," Joel muttered, following them aboard. "You absolutely brood," Nessa said, falling into step beside him. "It's kind of sexy, actually." "Very sexy," Estelle agreed from his other side, her hand brushing his arm. May just smiled knowingly from where she was already examining the ship's controls. Joel caught his father's amused look and knew he was never going to hear the end of this. But as they lifted off, carefully cloaked from the city's sensors, he couldn't help but smile. Things were about to get very interesting. The restaurant turned out to be a hidden gem in New Beijing sector, where the barriers between Earth and space were thin enough to allow more experimental cuisine. The owner, an old friend of Marcus's, led them to a private room where the walls rippled with actual space-time distortions. "So," Marcus said after ordering enough food for a small army, "tell me how my son managed to charm 3 exiled alien princesses." "Only one princess," Estelle corrected, sipping something that glowed blue. "And he didn't charm us. He saved us. After breaking about 15 security protocols," Joel added. "That's my boy." Marcus beamed proudly. "But what I really want to know is what you ladies think about our little hidden paradise." May leaned forward, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Your technological advancement is incredible. The quantum manipulation alone is centuries ahead of anything in the galaxy. But it's the integration of biology and technology that's truly revolutionary." "And yet you hide it all," Nessa observed, twirling a knife between her fingers with deadly grace. "Why?" Marcus's expression grew serious. "Fear, mostly. Not of defeat. We could probably take on the entire galaxy if we had to. But of what victory would cost us? Of becoming the very thing we fled from centuries ago." "Conquerors," Estelle said softly. "Exactly. So instead, we built our perfect cage." Marcus gestured around them. Golden and comfortable, but still a cage. Joel watched the sisters' reactions carefully. May was clearly fascinated by the technical aspects, while Nessa seemed to be calculating combat possibilities. But it was Estelle's thoughtful expression that caught his attention. "You're planning something," he said to her. She smiled mysteriously. "Always. But right now, I'm more interested in why your father really came to visit." Marcus chuckled. "Sharp one, isn't she? You're right, princess. I didn't just come to embarrass my son, though that's always a bonus." He pulled out a crystal and set it on the table. "The resistance movement is growing. More people want to end the isolation, especially the younger generation. They're planning something big." "Dad," Joel warned, "if the council finds out you're involved, they already know, son. Why do you think I retired?" Marcus activated the crystal, projecting a map of Earth's defense systems. "But now we have something they don't. Proof that humanity isn't just ready to rejoin the galaxy. We're needed out there." May's eyes widened as she studied the data. "The genetic markers. You're going to reveal that humans are the progenitor race?" "Along with everything else," Marcus confirmed. "The question is, are you ladies willing to help? It could be dangerous." "Dangerous is what got us exiled in the first place," Nessa grinned, her hand finding Joel's under the table. I'm in. As am I, May said firmly. The scientific implications alone could change everything, Estelle finished. Count me in as well. Her knee pressed against Joel's other side. Joel looked at his father suspiciously. You knew about them before they crashed, didn't you? Let's just say I may have helped arrange for their exile pod to malfunction in exactly the right place. Marcus winked at the sisters. No offense, ladies, but your accident wasn't entirely accidental. I knew it, Nessa exclaimed. The navigation systems failed too perfectly. Before anyone could respond, the restaurant's field rippled. The owner hurried in, looking worried. Marcus, security forces are doing a sweep of the sector. Someone tipped them off. Well, Marcus stood, cracking his neck. Guess dinner's over. Time for some father-son bonding over combat maneuvers. There's a back exit through the kitchen's quantum pocket, Joel said, already moving. Ladies, stay close. Oh no. Estelle grabbed his arm. We're not sitting this one out. Definitely not, Nessa agreed, her body tensing for action. May simply pulled out a small device. I've been analyzing Earth security protocols. Give me 2 minutes and I can create a blind spot in their surveillance. Marcus laughed deeply. Son, if you don't marry these women, I might have to disown you. The escape turned into an impromptu demonstration of why Earth remained undefeated. Marcus took point, his massive frame belying incredible speed as he led them through quantum pockets and dimensional folds. Joel brought up the rear while the sisters proved they weren't just beautiful, they were deadly. Nessa disabled 2 security agents with moves Joel had never seen before. Estelle somehow talked their way past a checkpoint using only her royal bearing and quick wit. May's hacking skills created digital chaos in their wake. Your father is insane, Estelle told Joel as they ducked through another fold. I absolutely approve. Less talking, more running, Joel replied, though he couldn't help smiling. The way they moved together felt natural, as if they'd been doing this for years. They emerged near Marcus's ship, but security forces had it surrounded. Well, Marcus grinned, knuckles cracking. Looks like we do this the fun way. Wait, May interrupted. I have a better idea. She pulled out her tablet, fingers flying across the surface. Suddenly, the security forces' weapons powered down. Did you just hack Earth's most advanced security systems? Joel asked, impressed. Please, May smirked. Your encryption was practically begging to be broken. They made it to the ship just as Thompson's voice boomed across the landing pad. Marcus Grant, you are interfering with official Security Council business. Aw, Thompson, Marcus called back. I missed you too. Sorry we can't stay for tea. The ship lifted off, cloaking systems engaging. As they broke through the lower atmosphere, Joel watched the sisters' reactions. None of them had seen Earth from this angle before. The sprawling cities hidden beneath illusion fields, the perfect blend of nature and technology. It's beautiful, Estelle whispered. And soon, Marcus said, the whole galaxy will know it. Back in the sanctuary of Joel's estate, they gathered to plan their next move. But the adrenaline of escape had shifted the atmosphere. The attraction that had been building for weeks crackled between them. We should rest, Joel suggested, trying to maintain professionalism. Should we? Nessa moved closer, her green skin almost glowing in the light. There are more important things to discuss, Estelle added, but her voice held a different kind of tension. May set down her tablet. Actually, I think we've all been discussing quite enough. What happened next would have scandalized the Security Council more than any security breach. The barriers between them finally broke, passion overwhelming protocol. Joel discovered that green skin felt like silk beneath his touch, that 3 pairs of lips could drive a man mad, that love could transcend species and politics and time itself. Marcus, wisely, had already departed for his own safe house, leaving them to explore their connection fully. Hours later, tangled together in sheets that seemed to shimmer between dimensions, they talked about everything and nothing. "The council will come for us," Joel said, tracing patterns on Estelle's shoulder. "Let them come," Nessa murmured from where she lay across his chest. May looked up from her position curled against his side. "I've already started broadcasting the truth about human origins. It's spreading through the galactic net faster than they can contain it." "My father planned this all along," Joel realized. "Getting you three here, pushing us together." "Complaining?" Estelle asked, raising an eyebrow. "Never." The House AI interrupted their moment. "Multiple signatures detected. The Security Council has mobilized its elite forces." Finally, Nessa sat up, battle-ready even in her current state. "Some real action." "We could run," Joel offered, though he knew they wouldn't. "No," Estelle said firmly. "We face this together. It's time for Earth to stop hiding." May was already accessing the defense systems. "I can give us an advantage, but we'll have to move fast." As they prepared for the coming confrontation, Joel looked at these three extraordinary women, a warrior, a princess, and a genius, all now inexorably part of his life. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. Earth's isolation would end, one way or another. "I love you," he said simply. "All of you." Their responses came in different forms. Nessa's fierce kiss, Estelle's knowing smile, May's gentle touch. But they all meant the same thing. The house shuddered as the first attacks hit the shields. Outside, the perfect illusion of Earth's death was beginning to crack. Soon the galaxy would know the truth. The real question was, were they ready for it? The shields around Joel's estate pulsed with increasing strain as Security Council forces intensified their assault. Inside, Joel and the sisters prepared for battle while monitoring multiple holographic displays. "Council's deployed disruptors," May announced, her fingers dancing across floating interfaces. "They're trying to collapse our dimensional pocket." "Let them try," Nessa grinned, checking her newly acquired Earth weapons. "I've been wanting to test these upgrades." A new alert flashed across the screens. Estelle studied it, her expression darkening. "The resistance is mobilizing. Multiple cells across every major city." "Dad's signal," Joel muttered. He'd known his father's visit wasn't just about meeting the sisters. He's starting a revolution. The House AI's voice interrupted them. "Incoming transmission, encrypted channel. Source, Victoria Grant." Joel froze. "Mom?" A hologram materialized in the center of the room, an elegant woman with steel-gray hair and commanding presence. Victoria Grant, former chief architect of Earth's defense systems and the only person who could make Marcus behave. "Joel, darling," she said, taking in the scene with raised eyebrows. "I see you've been busy. Ladies, charmed to meet you. We'll do proper introductions once I've prevented your father from starting a civil war." "Mom, what's happening out there?" "Your father's resistance movement has split. Half want peaceful revelation, half want," she sighed. "Well, galactic domination. Apparently, some people can't handle finding out they're the progenitor species without getting delusions of grandeur." Estelle stepped forward. "The strong should lead. If humanity created all other races, perhaps it's time they took their rightful place." Joel turned to her sharply. "Est, you can't be serious." "I've seen Earth's power, Joel. Why should you hide it? Why not use it to reshape the galaxy into something better?" "Because that's exactly what we've been fighting against for centuries," Victoria interrupted. "Power corrupts, dear, even with the best intentions." The estate shuddered again as another assault wave hit. May's screen showed multiple breaches forming in the outer defenses. "We need to decide now," Nessa said, moving to Joel's side. "Fight or run?" "Neither," May spoke up. "We need to show everyone the truth, all of it. Not just about human origins, but about what isolation has done to both Earth and the galaxy. Victoria smiled. I like her. Joel, your father's heading to the central broadcasting hub. He plans to override the planetary shields and transmit everything to the galaxy. But the hardliners in his movement want to include Earth's military capabilities, a show of force to accompany the revelation. That would start a war, Joel realized. Exactly. And your council friends out there? They're ready to destroy half the planet to prevent either scenario. Joel looked at the sisters, Nessa ready for battle, May focused on solutions, and Estelle torn between her new love and her old instincts for power. He had to make a choice. Mom, can you get us to the hub? Already on my way to pick you up. Be ready in 3 minutes? And Joel? Victoria's hologram smiled. I do hope you plan to make an honest man of yourself with these lovely ladies. The paperwork for multi-species marriages is a nightmare, but I have connections. The hologram winked out, leaving them in stunned silence. I like your mother too, Nessa finally said. Victoria Grant's ship burst through the siege around Joel's estate like a hot knife through butter. The sleek vessel, clearly her own design, made the Security Council's best technology look primitive. Your mother's ship just bypassed 7 layers of shielding, May marveled as they raced aboard. Mom always did have a flair for dramatic entrances, Joel replied, securing them in the command center. Almost as much as Dad. Victoria piloted with elegant precision, her silver hair gleaming in the dimensional distortions. Speaking of your father, he's about to do something monumentally stupid. Again. Define stupid, Estelle asked, still radiating tension from their earlier disagreement. He's gathered every resistance cell at the hub, but there's a faction led by Commander Hayes pushing for immediate military action. They want to use the revelation of human origins as a pretext for establishing Earth's dominance. And that's bad, Estelle ventured. Victoria's laugh held no humor. Sweetheart, I helped design Earth's weapons. Trust me, galactic domination would be embarrassingly easy and absolutely devastating. The ship dove through quantum space, emerging above the broadcasting hub, a massive structure that housed Earth's communications array. Security forces surrounded it, trading fire with resistance fighters. Marcus is already inside, Victoria reported, along with Hayes and his extremists. Joel studied the tactical displays. We need to split up. Mom, can you handle the security forces? Please, Victoria smiled dangerously. I wrote their combat protocols. May, you're with me. We need to reach the transmission controls. Nessa, watch our backs. He turned to Estelle. I need to see this through, she said firmly. All of it. Then I'll decide where I stand. They landed on a shifted platform, invisible to the chaos below. Victoria armed the ship's defensive systems while the others prepared to move. Joel, his mother called. When this is over, we're having a family dinner. All of us. She looked meaningfully at the sisters. I want to properly meet my future daughters-in-law. Mom! What? I'm not getting any younger, dear. Well, technically I am, given the latest regeneration treatments, but that's not the point. Nessa laughed, kissed Joel's cheek, and readied her weapons. Definitely like your mother. They split up, Victoria launching a devastating non-lethal assault that had security forces tripping over themselves. May led them through maintenance tunnels she'd already mapped, bypassing most resistance. The first real fight came at the hub's core. Hayes's followers had set up defensive positions, but they hadn't counted on Nessa. The warrior moved like liquid death, disabling opponents with efficiency that made even Joel stare. Stop admiring your girlfriend and help, she called, taking down 2 more guards. Fiancé, apparently, May corrected, hacking a security door. According to your mother's plans. Less relationship talk, more fighting, Estelle suggested, though Joel caught her small smile. They fought their way to the main control room where they found Marcus facing down Commander Hayes and his loyalists. The massive man looked barely winded, despite evidence of recent combat. "Took you kids long enough," he rumbled. Hayes here was just explaining his plan to conquer the galaxy. "Personally, I think he's been watching too many historical dramas." Hayes, a hard-faced man with military augmentation, snarled, "We have the power. We are the original race. Why should we hide?" "Because power isn't the point," Joel said, stepping forward. "Connection is. Growth is. We didn't survive isolation by becoming conquerors. We did it by becoming better." "Better?" Hayes laughed harshly. "We've been hiding like cowards while lesser races divide up our galaxy. Our galaxy. Our galaxy." A new voice cut through the tension. Victoria Grant strode in, looking immaculate despite having just dismantled an entire security force. "Last I checked, Commander, the galaxy belongs to everyone in it. We created them." Hayes gestured wildly at the sisters. "Look at them, imperfect copies of human perfection." Nessa's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Want to test that theory, Commander?" "Enough!" Marcus's voice boomed through the chamber. "The transmission array is ready. We're revealing the truth, all of it, but not as a prelude to war." Hayes pulled out a pistol. "Then you're all traitors to humanity." Everything happened at once. Hayes fired, the beam heading straight for Joel. Estelle moved faster than anyone expected, quantum shields flaring around them both. Nessa launched herself at Hayes while May's fingers flew across control panels, locking down his supporters' weapons. Victoria sighed, pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Hayes and his entire team collapsed, unconscious. "Neural disruptor," she explained to the stunned room. "Non-lethal, obviously. I designed it for when Marcus gets too rowdy at parties." "That was one time," Marcus protested. "3 times, dear. Now, shall we save humanity from itself?" May was already at the main controls, preparing the transmission. "The barrier around Earth is networked. If we broadcast through it, the signal will reach every corner of the galaxy," Joel finished. "But the Council—" Another explosion rocked the building. Security forces had breached the lower levels. "I'll handle them," Nessa said, moving to the door. "May, do your thing." "Est?" Joel turned to the former princess, who had been unusually quiet. "Any thoughts on galactic domination?" Estelle looked around the room, at Hayes's fallen form, at Victoria's quiet strength, at Marcus's barely contained energy, at her sisters preparing for battle and scientific breakthrough. Finally, she looked at Joel. "I've seen 3 versions of power," she said slowly. "The kind my people wielded through fear, the kind Hayes wants to grab through force, and," she smiled, "the kind your family shows. Power tempered by love, by wisdom, by the desire to protect rather than control." She stepped closer, green skin glowing in the lights. "I choose the third option." "Good choice," Victoria approved. "Much less paperwork than galactic conquest. Now let's make history." May's hands danced across the controls as the others defended their position. The barrier around Earth began to pulse with new energy as decades of secrets prepared to shatter. "Transmission ready," May announced. "But we need a voice, someone to tell our story to the galaxy." "I think," Marcus said, looking at his son, "we have just the right person." Joel stepped forward, feeling the weight of history. The sisters moved to stand with him. Nessa returning from her successful defense, May finishing the transmission preparations, Estelle linking her hand with his. "Together," she whispered. The screens lit up and Joel began to speak. "To all citizens of the galaxy, this is Earth, and we have a story to tell you." The signal rippled through the barrier, transforming Earth's protective shield into a galaxy-wide broadcast network. On every world, in every ship, screens came alive with the image of Joel and the sisters, backed by the stunning reality of Earth's true face. For centuries, you've known Earth as a dead world, Joel's voice carried across light years. You've been told we destroyed ourselves, that nothing could survive here. That was a lie, our lie, born of fear and necessity. The screens behind them showed Earth as it truly was, gleaming cities nestled in restored wilderness, advanced technology working in harmony with nature, humanity thriving in ways the galaxy had never imagined. But the greater truth is this: we are all one family. May stepped forward, displaying the genetic data she'd discovered. Every spacefaring race carries human markers because humanity didn't just survive. We seeded the galaxy with life before our isolation. Not to rule, Estelle added, her royal bearing lending weight to her words, but to share existence, to grow in different ways, to become unique and beautiful in our diversity. Nessa kept watch as the Security Council forces pushed closer, but even they seemed transfixed by the unfolding revelation. We hid because the galaxy wasn't ready, Joel continued. Perhaps we weren't ready either. But now, looking at how far we've all come, he smiled. It's time for the family to reunite. Victoria monitored the frequencies. The signals reaching everywhere. Response transmissions are flooding in. And Hayes's followers? Marcus asked, keeping a wary eye on the unconscious commander. Already contained. Amazing how quickly extremists lose support when faced with actual progress. The building shook again, but this time it wasn't from attack. The barrier around Earth was transforming, shifting from a shield of deception to a bridge of communication. Counselor Thompson burst into the room with a security team, then stopped short at the scene before her. Do you have any idea what you've done? Saved you from having to make the decision yourself? Victoria suggested kindly. Come now, Thompson. We both know you've been looking for a way to end the isolation without losing face. Thompson's augmented eyes whirred as she processed the situation. Finally, she laughed, a sound that startled her own security team. Victoria Grant, you manipulative genius. You planned this whole thing, didn't you? I merely suggested to my husband that certain exiled sisters might find their way to our supposedly dead world. Everything else was just probability. Mom? Joel turned to his mother in surprise. You were behind all of this? Victoria shrugged elegantly. You needed a push. The sisters needed a home. Earth needed a reason to wake up, and I needed daughters-in-law who could keep up with this family. Speaking of family, Marcus rumbled, shouldn't we make this official? I believe I'm still licensed to perform ceremonies. Here? Now? Joel asked incredulously. Can you think of a better time? Nessa grinned. We've just changed the galaxy. Might as well get married while we're at it. Actually, May chimed in, monitoring the feeds. The symbolic value of a human-alien union being broadcast along with the revelation could significantly improve diplomatic relations. Estelle took Joel's hand. I'm no longer a princess, but I know a historically perfect moment when I see one. Thompson threw up her hands. Fine. As head of the Security Council, I officially pardon everyone involved in this revolution on the condition that you help manage the diplomatic chaos that's about to ensue. Done, Victoria said promptly. Now, Marcus dear, marry these kids before something else explodes. Marcus's deep laugh filled the room as he stepped forward. By the power vested in me by a now-defunct isolation government, he began. The ceremony was brief, but powerful, broadcast across the same networks that had just revealed Earth's existence. Humans and aliens alike watched as 4 people from different worlds pledged themselves to each other, symbolic of the greater union taking place. Well, Thompson observed dryly as the newlyweds kissed. At least the paperwork for this will distract everyone from the diplomatic negotiations. About those negotiations, Victoria said innocently, I may have already drafted some preliminary treaties, just in case. Of course you did. Thompson sighed. I'm retiring, effective immediately. As their families and former enemies sorted out the future of human-alien relations, Joel held his new wives close. Sorry about my parents, he whispered. Are you kidding? Nessa grinned. They're perfect. Scientifically fascinating, May agreed. Politically brilliant, Estelle added. And now, Victoria called over, they're officially your parents too. Welcome to the family, dears. Try not to break the galaxy before dinner. 1 month later, Joel stood on the observation deck of Earth's first official diplomatic station, watching ships from across the galaxy arrive for the historic summit. Each vessel carried representatives eager to meet their recently revealed ancestors. Still brooding? Nessa wrapped her arms around him from behind, her green skin complementing the Earth sunset. Planning, he corrected. There's a difference. Not with you, May said, joining them with her ever-present tablet. But the initial reactions have been overwhelmingly positive. 97% of galactic civilizations have responded favorably to the revelation. And the other 3%, Estelle asked, completing their circle. Are dealing with Mother Dearest, Joel chuckled. She's apparently very persuasive in diplomatic settings. That's one way to put it, Marcus's voice boomed as he entered. Your mother just convinced the Centauri Alliance to open all their technology research to Earth scientists. Said it was a family sharing program. Where is Mom, anyway? Joel asked. Terrorizing the diplomatic corps with wedding pictures, Victoria answered, appearing in a shimmer of displacement. The galaxy seems quite fascinated by your ceremony. Apparently, multi-species marriages are becoming quite trendy. Please tell me you're not taking credit for starting a galactic social movement, Joel groaned. Of course not, dear. Victoria smiled serenely. That was just a fortunate side effect. The station's AI announced the arrival of another diplomatic fleet. Below them, Earth gleamed in its true glory, no longer hidden behind false storms and ruins. The barrier now served as a transportation network, linking humanity with its long-lost children among the stars. Hayes and his followers? Joel asked his father. Rehabilitating nicely, Marcus replied. Amazing what a little perspective can do. Thompson's running the integration program personally. And the resistance? Transformed into the diplomatic corps. Turns out revolutionaries make excellent ambassadors. They're used to fighting for change. May looked up from her tablet. The genetic research is proceeding faster than expected. We're already finding ways to enhance beneficial traits across all species. Under careful ethical guidelines, Victoria added firmly. Of course, May smiled. We're building bridges, not creating hierarchies. Nessa pulled Joel into a kiss. Speaking of building things, when are we starting on that family your mother keeps hinting about? Joel choked while his parents laughed. Estelle patted his back sympathetically, though her eyes sparkled with mischief. One galactic revolution at a time, he managed. Oh, please, Victoria waved dismissively. I've already designed the perfect cradle, multiple species compatibility included. Mom, what? I'm not getting any younger. She paused. Well, technically I am, but that's beside the point. As his family, both old and new, bantered and planned, Joel looked out at the stars. They seemed brighter now, more welcoming. Earth had hidden for centuries, growing and learning in isolation. But now, it was time for the next great adventure. Ready? He asked his wives. 3 green hands joined his on the observation window. Always, they replied in unison. Above them, the galaxy sparkled with possibility, while behind them, Earth pulsed with life and love and the promise of tomorrow. Some endings, after all, are really just better beginnings. Dear Quantum Explorers, if you're listening this, you've just witnessed a tale that sits somewhere between Arthur C. Clarke's vision of advanced technology and Douglas Adams' certainty that the universe has a sense of humor, like a TARDIS with relationship drama, or if the Foundation series had decided to include more family dinners. I'd like to think that somewhere out there in one of the infinite quantum realities Victoria Grant probably mapped out while planning her son's love life, there's a green-skinned reader smiling at their own ancestry test results. Perhaps they're sitting in a garden that defies gravity, wondering if their great-great-grandmother ever flirted with a certain Earth security officer. To those who notice the subtle references to classic sci-fi scattered throughout, yes, that quantum restaurant scene was indeed a nod to the famous pan-galactic gargle blaster establishment. And no, Marcus didn't really break that many laws of physics during the escape sequence. He just bent them a little, with style. For the romantics who wondered if 3 wives might be too complicated, remember that Captain Kirk dated across species lines decades ago, and he didn't even have quantum relationship counseling or a meddling mother with access to advanced genetic compatibility algorithms. And to the scientists among you, yes, all the quantum mechanics are completely accurate. In at least one of the infinite parallel universes where this story takes place, probably the one where Victoria Grant is currently organizing a galactic family reunion while Marcus tests the structural integrity of the space-time continuum with his bear hugs. Remember, in a universe infinite enough to contain both love and quantum physics, anything is possible. Even mothers-in-law who can hack planetary defense systems. Keep exploring, your storyteller. P.S. Any resemblance to actual alien princesses, retired security chiefs, or meddling parents with access to advanced technology is purely coincidental, though Victoria would probably say she planned it that way.